G'day guys.
Hey.
Carry on, Smithy. Smithy was halfway through a conversation before we wanted to start recording, and we thought it might be a good way to kick it off.
Yeah, well,
Just a couple of dudes talking about parasites.
Yeah,
and
Well,
detox.
we're a bit excited about. We're going to talk detox today,
Yeah.
and so we might be putting the horse in front of the cart a little bit. But I just went off on a little tangent, having a chat before the show.
Hang on, that's what happens. The horse goes in front of the cart.
You mean the cart?
The
Yeah,
cart was the horse.
there you go. Yeah, well, that's how confused I'm about this.
Yeah.
That's how out of sync we are. But
We talking about the parasite before the host, or the host before the parasite?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
yeah, well, we were talking about toxins, and I was sort of went down the rabbit hole of heavy metals, and I was just saying I came across some interesting research where there was a doctor, a scientist called Dietrich Klinghardt. He's a German guy, and he specialises in detox, but he talks a lot about the relationship between detox and parasites. And he was saying a few interesting facts. He was saying that a parasite inside a host can uptake 300 times the amount of toxins in its tissue than the host can.
A host human?
Uh,
Is that what he means?
Yeah, human or animal or any sort of mammal, I guess, where
Right.
you've got like a parasitic burden.
Yeah.
And he was also saying his theory, which makes a bit of sense, is that if someone is overburdened with parasites, it's more than likely that that is due to an overburden of toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, or some sort of probably a fat-soluble toxin.
Mm.
So his sort of hypothesis was that if you want to test for toxicity in a host, because toxicity is really difficult to test for, like he talks about, you can do hair mineral analysis, you can do testing of the feces, you can test urine, and usually a lot of people in the detox world like to test all three of those because testing just one isn't usually an accurate way of testing your level of like toxic burden. But he was saying possibly a more accurate way to test is actually to test your parasitic burden, and then he draws like a relationship between if you've got a high level of parasites, you probably have a high level of toxicity, and it's almost like a symbiotic relationship. And if you have a low level of parasites, then you might not have too much of a toxic burden. So interesting.
Wow.
So that was a little rabbit hole that we went down right at the start of the show. But
Well,
Yeah.
that's what, interestingly, Rue and I came in the car today and we went via a compounding pharmacy to pick up medication to remove parasites.
Mm.
A couple of our family members have, so we're running through a protocol. And one of the things the functional medicine doctor talked about, well, I asked about was this Herxheimer reaction, which is based on the fact that the parasites hold a lot of those toxic metals, and if you're killing the parasite, you are then releasing those toxins into your bloodstream, and then it turns out you can have sort of, it's almost like an allergic reaction where the toxins expose themselves. The doctor was saying that sometimes the parasites don't present in any sort of fashion, but they can. So for us, it was sort of skin issues. And the doctor said, well, if you're getting skin issues before we kill the parasite, once we do kill the parasite, it could be that Herxheimer reaction is some of the stuff that you have already been experiencing. So if it's gut problems, it might be that. If it's skin issues, it might be that. But the protocol that she's got us on is there's a lot of things to stop those or grab those toxins and excrete them as we go.
yeah, interesting. So you've got you've got this protocol where you're going to kill the parasites with a pharmaceutical.
Yep.
And then what you're saying is
Then
that she's going to support your detox to help eliminate those if they do release.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's diatomaceous earth and bentonite clay we were talking about in the car.
Mm.
That they bind to the toxins, take them out of your body. I think activated charcoal is another one, but I don't know how. I don't know how accurate or effective is the word they are.
So based on the information that you guys have just said, so Smitty, a parasite can hold up to 300 times more toxins than the host. And then what you just said, Jonesy, about killing those parasites, but then also the toxins being released once that parasite has been destroyed.
Mm.
Is it beneficial then in some way to not detox or kill the parasite because that parasite's keeping in those toxins? And I know it's not healthy to have a parasite, but parasites aren't always bad, are they? I mean,
depends who you ask, isn't it?
yeah. So is there any sort of
Some people suggest that they
benefit in the
keeping
parasite.
them. Yeah, some
keeping
people say, you know,
Yep.
you don't need to get rid of them. Some people say they can cause chronic health issues along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who knows? I guess.
I think there's a lot of different takes on it,
Mm.
obviously, and different functional medicine doctors like approach it from different angles.
Yeah.
And I have heard some people saying that, like if you're not really ready to detox and you've got some really good protocols in place, it's probably best to leave them. That's what I've heard some people say.
Yeah.
I've heard others say the best way to do it is actually to try and coax parasites out of more important areas of tissue. So like some parasites like to go into like brain and like spinal cord sort of tissue and stuff like that, and your liver and sort of quite important areas. I've heard some doctors talking about trying to coax them into your gut and then trying to actually excrete them out of your gut while they're still alive so they don't release any toxin.
Oh,
And there's
right.
people that do protocols. I think there's a Russian protocol that some doctors came up with, and they actually give you, it was like a milk enema
Right.
into your,
yeah, right.
into your bowel, your
Yeah.
colon.
Back to the enemas.
Back to the enemas. Everyone's got to think about it. And
Sticking stuff in our butt.
it was milk, and it might have even had some other things like glucose or something added to it, and you would hold it for like 2 hours, right? And apparently this formula that they've made up, this sort of milk and these other additives, is like crack for these parasites. Like they love it.
Wow.
So they will actively leave other areas of your body
Yeah.
to go and try and get actually into
The colon. So they'll
into
move to the colon.
colon.
Yeah.
And then when you release that fluid, then you can be releasing a whole lot of parasites, obviously without them actually dying and going through that process of releasing the heavy metals or whatever the toxin is that they're holding.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah.
it's a bloody rabbit hole. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah. Well,
a
this
lot of
this
different theories.
this doctor we went to, she sort of said, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Especially I guess for she was talking about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth as well, things like that. So I think it sort of messes with your, I don't know if it's glucose regulating signals or something like that. That it's sort of craving sweet, sugary foods, causing you to want to eat those things, and then overeating, and then either gaining weight, or having large or higher than normal blood glucose and things like that. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting one.
It'd be interesting to hear about Mickey's experiences with the colonic irrigation. I guess that would remove a lot of parasites as well.
I guess
Would it?
depending on what you're irrigating with.
Right.
If it's something they don't like, possibly the opposite,
Okay.
perhaps.
Yeah, right.
Um,
If it's something they don't like, so that means they'll go and find a part of the body that is not impacted by the irrigation. Is
so I
that
think
right?
this particular article I was reading when they were talking about using this milk with some other additives, I think it might have been glucose or something sweet, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I think that was formulated because that's what they absolutely love to go to the most. So they will actively move into that area,
Yeah,
and
right.
you did need to hold it for a couple of hours to give some of them time to actually get in there.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of extrapolating now, but I guess if you put something in there that they hated, possibly they're not gonna leave other tissues already happy to go into there,
Right.
because there's nothing to attract them.
Does a colonic irrigation do a flushing process of parasites? I mean, Mickey said he's on his way. He's running a little bit late today. He's on his way, so we'll hook him in when he's here. I'm just wondering, is that irrigation process a way of removing, I don't know, parasites from the colon or
I don't think
whatever?
it's commonly used or known as a parasitic
Right.
treatment.
Okay.
Are they a bit higher up in the intestinal tract? I don't know.
So what
We're
are they?
talking
What's a
detox.
colonic irrigation remove then? Is it just like unprocessed food?
I think you're really
Yeah.
giving
Pieces.
exactly right. You're
Right.
giving your colon a really good clean out of
Right.
any sort of old bits of fermented food and
Yeah, that
all
sort
that
of
sort of
stuck.
stuff. Just really giving yourself a good clean. I
Yeah.
believe what it is, because it's under some sort of pressure, isn't it? Like I've never had one of those, and I
No.
think maybe
I've never put anything in my bottom.
no. We have spoken about coffee
We have.
coffee enemas, which is a little bit different, and I haven't
Yeah.
done one of those either. I'm probably keen to
Oh,
try
well, I
one
do
day,
remember
maybe,
on the
but,
coffee episode, my wife listened to our podcast and she said, I don't know how you're going to talk about coffee for an hour. And then she got to the end with the coffee enema and went, oh, okay, that's the route you went down. Stick your fingers in your butt. Yep.
So we've
cool.
started off pretty scientific there, but
Yeah.
for the average Joe Blow like me, looking into this detox thing,
That's how I looked at it.
we're looking at removal of heavy metals, chemical compounds, even alcohol, drugs, even from the body. But I mean, I guess our body does it already naturally, doesn't it? So our liver is the main detoxification organ in our body, and you've got your kidneys, you've got your lymphatic system, your colon, all that sort of area.
So definitely, your small intestine is massive, and some people argue the small intestine does as much detox as the liver.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
And the liver's not storing those chemicals. You know, we talk about organ meats, and why are you eating the liver that's storing all those toxic metals? Well, it's not storing it there; it's processing it and getting rid of it.
It's essentially making enzymes and doing other processes like methylation and acetylation and stuff like that to try and help you excrete chemicals. But like you say, it's not a big storage sink of. It's not just sucking it all up and holding it there like a sponge to sort of keep you safe kind of thing. It's making it's doing your phase 0, 1, 2, 3 detox phases along with other organs to.
Well, that's a good segue. Did you want to discuss the phases or pathways of detox? Because mine are very general. Is the ones that I want to talk about, sort of for the everyday man.
Well, see,
and what ancestral man would have done for
I'm really looking forward to hearing Smitty's version of this, because Smitty's got a lot more sort of scientific knowledge with regards to this sort of topic, and I really look forward to hearing what you've got to say. But I'll be coming from pretty much
the ancestral everyday man's
point of view, and just looking at lifestyle things, because obviously our body does have its own organs that do detoxify us, but we can also do some lifestyle things as well, can't we?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and lifestyle is really important. And like I think when you talk about detox, the most important part of detox really is avoiding that toxic burden in the first place. And then doing simple lifestyle things to help you deal with them, like in the first instance. So, ideally we don't want to be going down these complicated rabbit holes of, more difficult lifestyle things, supplements, removing parasite burden, and all the sort of complexity that comes with it, when the low-hanging fruit, the really easy thing to do is to try and avoid as much toxicity as possible. So lifestyle, perfect.
I mean, you walk into a chemist, and how many of these detox fucking boxes are there for $50 or whatever, and people just seem to be, people just think that they can just grab a detox thing from the chemist and do it for a week and that's it.
And in my opinion, most of those do nothing.
Or
they might even be harmful.
And then we go back to what we talk about as being free to help our own individual health. You're spending a lot of money on something that could be harmful or it's not going to work. But what we're going to talk about, these lifestyle practices, are totally free, and we've talked about fasting, and fasting is probably one of the best things to do to help detoxify your body. And how long do you reckon you'd have to fast? Up to 3 days, you reckon, for a good detox?
Yeah, I think they talk about autophagy and some of the good stuff. One of the good things is you're not giving your body that you're always digesting. The bro science of I've got to eat 6 meals a day. I've got to always be spiking my metabolism. You're giving your digestive tract a rest for one of them. So I think even an intermittent fast of 16 hours, you're going to get some benefits. They're talking about autophagy kicking in at pretty good at 48 hours. Really good at 72 hours.
Second or third days when you start to get some, and then you go into that sort of deep autophagy at sort of 5 days.
So autophagy is the cleanup of cellular debris, where your body's, rather than having to digest food, it's got, I need something else to do. What am I going to do? Well, let's clean up a few broken cells, proteins, either recycle them or get rid of them. So if your body's not focusing on digestion, eating, it's got other things to do. Autophagy is that sort of cellular cleanup. I guess that's what one of the. I reckon that would be happening all the time, wouldn't it? And then when it's got nothing to do, then you're focusing on that. I reckon that would kick in.
I guess the fasting gives it a kickstart, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I reckon that would kick in soon after you've finished digesting. Your body will go, okay, well, what do I do now?
Yeah,
clean up
I
some
think
of
like you
these.
said, it takes a while for autophagy to kick in.
Mm,
Like you can't just. I don't think your body starts doing it like a couple of hours after your last meal. I think you do need to have a decent window, like you said.
Yeah.
But the stuff I came across, the fasting one is an interesting one because we're the modern ancestral man, and we're talking about like ancestral techniques for health, and fasting has been a big part of
mm,
pretty much every culture. If you look at it, it's always had some religious or ceremonial or maybe just necessity sort of thing throughout the ages in pretty much all cultures. But there's one interesting argument, which is that if you go back to ancestral times, whether you're going back like 200 years or 2,000 years or 20,000 years, the world that they lived in is a very different world to the world we live in now.
yep.
So our current world is extremely toxic. We've got all these man-made chemicals that we never had. We've got a lot of pollution in our air, a lot of pollution in our water, a lot of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, etc. on our food. So there's a growing group of people who argue that maybe deep fasting, like sort of 5-day water fast you talk about, actually um, might be not beneficial in the context of detox because you might actually release so many toxins into your bloodstream, but unless all your detox pathways are working immaculately and you have the ability to cope with that level, you're going to get a huge flood of toxins into your bloodstream. And then that can actually have sort of liberated those out of your fat, and then they might end up lodging in even worse areas like your brain.
Wow.
So sometimes, if people are very toxic, there are a large body of natural health practitioners in that space who don't recommend a long, like a 5-day water fast, because we're just too toxic now.
Wow.
Whereas if you go back 100, 1,000, 10,000 years, it was probably really, really good, but we didn't have all these man-made chemicals and all these toxins that we're breathing. We're not breathing exhaust fumes and eating pesticides and doing that sort of stuff. So that's one interesting one. But I think, like CJ said, and I agree, I think like intermittent fasting and shorter fasts is like really, really good. So you're getting that sort of autophagy. Is that what you guys sort of came across? Or?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, ancestrally, they talk about this metabolic winter hypothesis, whereas where we evolved being cold and hungry. You're shivering, you're always hungry. If you don't hunt your food or gather it, you don't eat. So we would have done several days, probably 2 or 3 days, intermittent fasting, I reckon, a lot. So I reckon we've sort of evolved this way.
And to accompany that, ancestral man would have decided to live close to a water body because he obviously can't go without water. So even with fasting, he's going to be drinking water, even if he's not eating, which is another perfect way to detox your body. And it's probably one of the fastest ways because water carries toxins in your bloodstream and you piss it out. So drinking water is a simple, even modern way, and it's got to be quality water. We're talking about nothing from plastic and nothing, or something that's ideally been what do you call it? Like separated from the mineral,
like purified
a little bit more. Yeah.
Yep.
Ancestral man is not drinking from a plastic tub, is
No, he's drinking flowing water, man.
Straight from the stream.
Straight from the mountains.
Probably not grabbing a dose of chlorine and fluoride in his water either.
No.
Probably full of parasites though, the water.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
So there's two simple little things that modern man can do to help detoxify their body, as well as obviously avoiding toxins in itself.
Yeah. Yep.
So intermittent fasting and drinking water, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Pretty free.
What about other liquids like, you see vegetable smoothies, lemon juice,
I think lemon juice and apple cider vinegar and stuff like that is super good.
Yeah.
So add to your water in the morning.
Bone broth.
That'll assist.
Probably helps your gut.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, you need good gut health, don't you? If you want to remain optimal level of health. So.
Eliminating foods that are toxic, and we've talked about those your fast foods and all that sort of stuff, and foods that are wrapped in PFOS or plastics.
Cooked at high heat with vegetable oils.
Yeah.
All your processed foods. We've talked about it several times. You cut out processed foods, you're going to cut out that vegetable oil burden.
Yeah.
There are ways to detox from that. We did talk about glycine. Helps you detox from We'll probably have to talk about glyphosate at another time, but that is
Yeah.
also helping you get rid of glyphosate and vegetable
yeah.
oil burdens.
It still shits me to drive down the road and there are signs out in my neighbourhood where it says glyphosate spraying, and there's all these little signs and there's dudes spraying this shit
It's criminal.
in the neighbourhood. You know, it's
On the path.
yeah,
Got to get rid of the weeds on the path.
yeah. Like who
I live
cares?
across the road from a park and they do it all the time.
But I think you were saying earlier, mate. There's a shire in Perth that does steam removal of weeds. So instead of pesticides, they use steam.
Yeah, I know that along West Coast Highway there.
Yeah.
So I think it might be the city of Stirling, but don't quote me.
Yeah, right.
It might be all of them, but along the coast there, they seem to be reluctant to spray glyphosate, maybe because they know it's going to damage the bird life and the
well, maybe because
the
they're so
waterways
closer to the coast and the wind is stronger and there's probably potential for
spread. But we'll go down that rabbit hole another day, I think.
Yeah,
we'll
glyphosate.
definitely talk about that.
Well, I reckon glyphosate will be one of the most common water-soluble toxins that we're exposed to. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Because glyphosate's everywhere. Glyphosate is in our rain. So, like I drink, tank water, so caught from the rain, but I know it's got glyphosate in it because the atmosphere has glyphosate in it, our air has glyphosate in it, and even organic food will test positive for glyphosate because they have to water it with something.
Yeah.
So, if organic food gets rained on, and the farmer 100 k's away has just done a big aerial or ground spray of glyphosate, it's still going to get contaminated. So I think we've all got a burden of glyphosate, and you spot on, CJ. I think like glycine is one good way to detox glyphosate.
Which is an amino acid.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
It's extremely cheap.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have any bad side effects.
Can't really overdose on it.
No, and glycine also helps with a lot of other detox enzymes. So a lot of detox enzymes made in our body are reliant on the amino acid glycine to make up part of their structure. And a lot of people are actually deficient in glycine because of our overburden of glyphosate. Yeah. So, I mean, I was looking on...
let me quantify what glyphosate is. It's the active component in Roundup and a lot of weed killers.
Exactly.
Yeah. So people maybe don't know what that is. So there we go.
It's a pesticide, isn't
Pesticide, yeah.
Yeah. Herbicide.
Herbicide. It doesn't get pest, gets the herbs.
Yeah. And I heard someone talk on, it might have been on a Rogan podcast, the icide means murder, or so the word homicide means person's murder or death. Everything else is like a herbicide, so you're killing herbs. Yeah. A pesticide, you're killing pests.
Yeah.
All these sides are things that are killing things.
Interesting. Well, we're going to do a glyphosate one, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. But
what were you going to say, Smitty?
I was just saying, if you want to supplement with glycine, it's very, very cheap.
Yeah, right.
Like I was looking on an Australian website last night, you get a bag of, I think it was 250 grams of glycine powder for $12.
Yeah.
Okay. $12 Australian.
Wow.
And so
it's not a bad one.
So, because that's another thing that people can do is use supplements to help detox. So, what does glycine do?
So, in the context of Roundup or glyphosate, so the molecule of glycine and the molecule of glyphosate are very, very similar in their structure.
Right.
So the body can get a bit confused, and when your glycine levels are low and getting used up, you can actually get that replaced with glyphosate, and it can kind of stay in your body for a little amount of time.
Wow.
So
because the molecules are so similar,
because
your body
similar,
is thinking that it's glycine.
A little bit like a jigsaw puzzle, and the pieces kind of fit. You can kind of hammer into the spot, and they kind of go in there.
Yeah.
For sort of like a layman's term. So a lot of people recommend if you regularly take the amino acid glycine and get your levels of glycine up nice and high, it'll assist your body to flush out that glyphosate. So it'll replace it. It'll put the glycine back in the right spot. And then once that glycine is sitting in the correct spot and is being used for the correct things, then the glyphosate can get flushed out. So if you look at some studies, we sort of assume most people have some sort of glyphosate burden in the Western world.
Yeah.
Particularly people that don't eat, organic food and aren't very careful about what they're putting into their body. But regardless, if you start taking glycine and then you measure your urinary output of glyphosate itself and glyphosate metabolites, they'll climb once you start taking glycine. So it's showing that it's helping you excrete it.
Wow.
In other words.
That's amazing, eh?
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's a goodie, and it's quite cheap, and there's really no downsides taking a bit of glycine. It's a non-essential amino acid, so your body can make it. But the other good thing about taking glycine, because you sort of asked why you would take it, is it is also required to make detox enzymes, because detox is there's definitely a big enzymatic process to it, and that's one of the components of a lot of the detox enzymes that you're required to make. So if you take glycine, you've got adequate levels of it. It's going to help you make more of those enzymes to help you detox. So
right.
So it's just a cheap, good one.
Yeah.
It's not one of those real fancy ones. You go to the pharmacist, you've got to pay $50 for a little thing that lasts you a month or something like that.
Yeah.
You probably get a year's worth of glycine just about for, $12 or something like that.
Yeah.
You might take a gram a day or something like that. So maybe 250 gram bag, $12 might last you 250 days. Cheap.
Another good one to supplement with if you're on the carnivore diet.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I reckon we'll do a podcast about carnivore.
Yeah.
I think we're all pretty fascinated with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, good for that as well, definitely.
Yeah. The methionine glycine ratio, or
exactly.
Along those lines.
Yeah. So muscle meat's got a lot of methionine in it, and all your sort of connective tissue sort of stuff containing a lot of collagen has a lot of glycine. You can get out of whack if you just eat ribeyes all the time.
Right on.
One of my little takeaways from my research was that it's one thing to detox. So I take chlorella and spirulina, which I think we talked about in our supplements podcast, which are really good. They're like blue-green algae, and they're really good at binding to heavy metals and pesticides. But one thing I learned was that it's no point actually getting those things binded to without being able to release them.
Exactly.
So that what is it? That clay, the bentonite clay, that binds to toxins, so that it's easy for your body. It mops it up sort of much.
Soaks them up, kind of.
Soaks them up, and then it helps your body expel them. So it's not just about like taking something to sort of bind to a toxin. You've got to be able to have something to release it,
get rid of it,
to pick it up, mop it up,
exactly,
and excrete it.
Yep. Because you don't want to just bind it and then it just continually circulates around in your body.
Yeah.
You want to actually be able to get rid of it.
Yeah. That's what I really found fascinating. And one thing I'll probably look at, that bentonite clay, or what was that other one you mentioned, mate? The earth?
Diatomaceous earth.
Diatomaceous earth. I think...
You've got to get food grade of those. Food grade.
Can't just go and eat some clay.
Yeah.
Some earth.
You can get... It's fairly easy to get hold of. I think health food stores would have it.
Yeah. You'd have it in a tea or something like that.
Yeah, I think you can just
dissolve it,
neck it.
Yeah,
have a teaspoon of it,
But there's a lot of herbs as well that I've been very ignorant of herbs, but there's a lot of herbs that can help with liver and kidney support, also cleaning out lymphatic system and stuff like that. There's a whole list of herbs that you can look at for detox.
Yeah, there sure is. Yeah,
I looked at a few ones that we'd actually looked at before. We've talked about them for various other things. So the hot cold therapy, so sauna, sweating or getting sweat out of your body is a good way to detox. So obviously exercise helps you do that, but sitting in the sauna will also do that.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of sweat, I read something here about bad breath and body odor and foul-smelling stools. And it said here that body odor, bad breath, and foul-smelling stools are not normal, and in fact indicate that you have sluggish digestion and a congested liver. It said bad breath is usually a symptom of dysbiosis, and an imbalance of the good and bad bacteria in the gut. But it also said, just on your thing about sweat, it said sweat itself does not smell. Body odor comes from skin bacteria breaking down the sweat released from sweat glands. If your body doesn't have a healthy balance of bacteria due to a high toxic load, this might be why your sweat stinks. How interesting is that?
Yeah. Very interesting.
And it is true, because often when I'm working out and maybe I haven't got deodorant on or whatever, I sweat, but I don't stink. Maybe that's a good thing, but then you have some people that just reek.
Yeah, definitely.
Might be to do with the deodorant they're using.
Yeah, but because there's a lot of body signs and symptoms that your body's telling you that something's not going right inside.
Yeah.
So generally, what you see on the outside is an indication of something not being right on the inside, and it's generally something to do with a toxic load.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the same with energy levels. You know,
Yeah.
people who are chronically fatigued and sluggish and just never have any energy.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that a component of that is that you've got a big toxic burden, you're overloaded.
Yeah.
You know, you've got some toxins in there that are sort of really knocking around your mitochondria's ability to make energy. So little bugs that live in your cells, mitochondria, they make ATP and, you know, fuel your whole body essentially.
Yeah.
You know, if those guys have a toxic burden, they're not going to make as much energy. You feel sluggish. You know, so extrapolate that back.
Yeah.
Toxic burden, feeling
Well,
sluggish, detox.
Another thing I read was a 2013 investigation found that the presence of mycotoxins, which stem from water-based mold, was a factor in over 90% of chronic fatigue causes.
Yeah,
Interesting.
there you go. Interesting. Another big one for the fatigue, going back to it, is aluminium. Aluminium is, like a lot of people are overburdened with aluminium. If you do a hair mineral analysis or some sort of testing, tons and tons of people and people I've seen have had really high aluminium levels. And a lot of it comes from personal care products, which we spoke about in a recent episode as well. You know, you're rolling deodorant onto your skin, contains aluminium. Well, aluminium really knocks around your mitochondrial function. So if you're overburdened with aluminium, you're not going to have the energy levels that you could have.
Yeah. Man, dudes just spray that deodorant shit randomly. I can't handle being in the change rooms where someone's just spraying willy nilly under their armpits with this crap that I've got to breathe in. You know, I leave. I cannot breathe it in.
Do you think after reducing your load of those type of things, that when there is a smell like that, it is overbearing?
Overbearing.
Yeah.
I've found now that I don't know if it's heightened my smell, but I can smell. Oh, there's some perfume here, and someone might have left the room 5 minutes ago. You know, you can smell that overburdening Lynx Africa.
Yeah.
How is it walking through the bloody section of, if you're in like a department store or something like that, like the cosmetics and perfume section? I've got to get out of that place. It's bad in there. Like, I don't know how people would work in there.
Yeah, I can even smell washing powder. You know, like if I've washed my clothes somewhere different to my home.
Yep.
That's one thing we don't consider, is it?
Yeah.
The stuff we wash our clothes in and our dishes.
Yeah. Also toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mate, CJ, you spoke about a really good one the other day, dry brushing.
Yeah, so I looked
you're
at...
the expert on this.
I don't know about that. I looked at sort of moving your lymph around your body. Lymph obviously brings waste products back to the heart to get rid of them, clean it up, and the circulatory system obviously has your heart, pumps your blood around your body, so it's got a mechanical pump that does it for you. The lymph only moves around the body if we move. So if we're sedentary or at the desk all day, that lymph is not moving around your body. So one way to do that is dry skin brushing. So you get sort of like a fairly thick kind of brush, a bit like a big toothbrush, and you're just sort of lightly brushing your skin, sort of trying to push the lymph back towards your heart, so moving your lymph around.
So you're brushing, like with your limbs, are you always brushing them like upwards towards your heart? Is that the idea?
Yep. Yeah, same. Yeah, with your legs, sort of where the lymph nodes are, give them a little bit more of a... So you got some sort of at the side of your cheek next to your ears. You got some in your neck, near your groin, back of your knee, maybe. So yeah, getting to those spots and giving them a light brush. It doesn't have to be really heavy. You know, it's just a bit of a light brush. And then I'm going to sound like a bit of a weirdo, but I do this, and then I sort of do it's like a little half jump, get up on the balls of my feet and sort of slam down, not so that you're hurting your heels, but just to try and help that lymph get around your body.
Yeah, well, I heard that, mate, like jumping on one of those little bounding trampoline things.
Yeah, rebounding's the other one.
Rebounding, like a trampoline, or even skipping.
Yep.
Helps activate your lymphatic system.
Yeah. So walking and running obviously is going to do that as well. If we're doing physical activity, that helps to move your lymph around. But, you know, if we're sitting down and we're not getting some people get 1,500, 2,000 steps a day. You know, that's not enough. They walk to their car, they drive to their car, they park their car as close as they can to their office, they walk to their office, they're sitting down at their desk all day, they walk home, completely shattered, I'm not doing anything, I sit down. So that's not getting our one of the things is they're not getting their lymph moving around to remove some of those waste products and build up of sitting down and eating probably a bad diet and those kind of things. So yeah, rebounding, dry skin brushing, um, even sort of foam rolling and massage helps that fascial release, helps move the lymph around as well. So, if you, I know you do it, Rooster, sit down in front of the TV and just get the foam roller out. It doesn't have to be a gym time. I know people like to go to the gym and foam roll. I don't see the point in that. I think it's one of those things that you don't need to do at the gym. If you want to only go to the gym for an hour, you've got an hour to go there, and you want to foam roll for 10 minutes. I don't think it's utilising your time. Everyone's time poor. Do it in front of the TV when you're relaxed, and it's not designed as a warm up kind of thing.
No,
I'd
probably use it at the end of a workout.
Yeah, possibly a cool down,
just to maybe target some muscles that I can feel have been used, or I can feel might be a little bit sore tomorrow.
Even that sort of self massage and those massage guns sort of help a little bit, release a bit of tension, a bit of toxin, and move that lymph back around your body. But I find that one quite interesting. I don't know whether it works. I feel like I haven't been too ill, and I think that is one of the reasons.
Because if you've got a sludgy sort of like lymphatic system, those toxins embed themselves into your joints and things like that, and that's how you get muscle and joint soreness and things like gout. Gout's a response, isn't it, to toxicity or inflammation?
It can be like uric acid crystal build up in your blood, so it can be caused by dietary things.
Yeah, right.
Other stuff like that.
The other one I do when I'm doing my dry skin brushing and my rebounding on the ground, not with a trampoline, is coconut oil pulling. So I grab a tablespoon.
Pull with coconut
oil.
I've got a baby oil.
Hey, let's go to a commercial.
Why does it always have to be like that with you?
Well, that could actually be a good lube, actually. A bit of coconut oil.
Very natural.
I guess at least it's natural, yeah.
It's organic.
Yeah. Well, don't they say some of those lubes are horribly, like, petrochemical laden?
Yeah.
Vaseline is
made of crude oil.
Waste, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to my coconut oil pulling is not
with your
masturbatory, no. David. Thank you for bringing it down a level. It is, so I take like a tablespoon of coconut oil, let it dissolve in my mouth, and then swish it round.
Yeah.
So that's drawing out some of the toxins from teeth and cheeks and keeping the biome of my mouth healthy.
Yeah.
Is the theory.
Yeah. I was doing that for a while too, mate. It grossed me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've sort of stopped doing it, but I should probably get back into it.
So you put it in your mouth for 5 minutes. Gross. They say 5 minutes. Swish it around. Because it's a bit heavy, it's a bit oily. You don't want to swallow it, obviously. Once you're done, you spit it out.
Yeah.
Because, if it's taking any toxins out of your mouth and teeth and gums and whatnot, you don't want to be swallowing it.
Oh, no,
and you'd probably be pretty hard to... Let's go somewhere else now. David's just brought it down a level of... Yeah. Anyway.
I was just going to say, getting back to your dry brushing, which I've never done, but I've heard is awesome. I've heard a lot of people talking about the combination of dry brushing and then, like we spoke about, getting into a sauna.
Oh, yeah.
I think all saunas have benefit, but the research I came up with, and you guys might be the same, is that your infrared saunas are by far the best from a detox point of view.
Oh, yeah.
So if you've got a full spectrum, far, middle, near, and then actually just red light infrared as well.
What's the theory behind that? Because I would have thought that the aim of the sauna is to sweat out the toxin.
Yeah, so like if you've got like a steam sauna, obviously that's going to give you the most sweating.
Yeah,
and sweat is one way that we can definitely excrete like water soluble toxins. But I think the theory behind the infrared saunas is that because the infrared waves actually penetrate your body, penetrate your skin and go in a certain amount, it actually promotes sweating of your small intestine.
Whoa!
And your small intestine will actually essentially sweat, and then you will be able to excrete that in your stools.
Okay, right.
Wow. In your bowel movement. So I've heard a lot of people say that the small intestine, in a lot of ways, is a more valuable detox organ in some respects than the liver. Like it's super important. Super important. So
that's interesting.
It just works by a different method.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, if you're going to go after it 100%, you would obviously try and do, something where maybe if you did some exercise and you sweated profusely, then you want to wash all that off because the sweat can have the toxins in it. So if you've ever had a good sweat, whether it's in a sauna or exercise, you want to wash it off so you don't reabsorb any toxins that you're getting out. But then, I just saw some research about the combination of dry brushing plus or minus some sort of trampolining or jumping, and then into a sauna.
Yep.
Because you're getting that sort of internal sweating.
And an infrared. Okay.
Wow. Infrared, yeah. So
well, that's interesting because I've done some infrared sauna and I've done some traditional saunering, and it took. I reckon I had to be in the infrared sauna a bit longer. It wasn't quite as hot, and you didn't sweat as much as early. So I thought, the traditional one, when you bang for your buck, you go in there, you sweat within the first sort of 5 to 10 minutes, and but that's interesting if the red light is penetrating and working that. That's cool.
Because supposedly it does penetrate your skin a few centimeters, sort of thing. So
okay,
and the far infrared can promote sweating as well. So the far infrared
bulbs you get a sweat on.
Hot. Definitely nothing like what you were saying with the like Swedish sauna, but.
Mate, to support that lymphatic system activation that you were talking about with the brushing and the light jumping and stuff like that, there's herbs as well which I had a look at, which are really good at stimulating the lymphatic system. There's nettle. There's burdock root and red clover are all really good at stimulating your lymphatic system. So if anyone's after a herb for that, there's a couple there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really got into the herb thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I might actually start looking at maybe supplementing with some.
Getting on the herbals. Well, you take spirulina and chlorella.
Yeah,
they're pretty good.
Yeah, well, we've talked about sleep in the past, and I've mentioned that I have sort of interrupted sleep, like waking up in the middle of the night sometimes. And I come across this information that I was looking at with signs and symptoms of toxic buildup, and there was this mention about insomnia, and it said every organ in the body has a peak time at which it performs most of its work.
Like
and
a
your
circadian
liver,
rhythm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, your liver is typically between 2 and 6 a.m. where it's doing most of its work. And so often 2 to 3 a.m. is the time that I wake up in the middle of the night. And it said here that if you're having trouble getting restful sleep or you are waking up around those times, it could mean that your liver is struggling to detoxify.
Right.
So
interestingly, I'd heard that if you are sort of waking up at the same time, going back to our parasites at the very start, if you're waking up, say 4:05, the same sort of time every morning, that's when parasites are having activity in your body, laying eggs, whatever they do.
Yeah, right.
Having
Multiplying,
a party.
But then it sort of links into what you're saying there with maybe the other detoxes are working overtime as well and wake you up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows what our body's doing, hey? But
it made me based on the moon. Is it the moon or the tide, the parasites? Something one of those? Yeah, I don't know.
It made me look at a bit more liver care. I mean, I drink alcohol, so possibly...
Not after our podcast, surely.
Well, I still do. I drink, maybe a glass of wine or whatever, and that's going to affect the performance of my liver, isn't it? So I maybe need to look at assisting my liver's detoxification process.
Yeah.
With some herbs.
Herbs.
Yeah.
I'll tell you an interesting one I found with the herbs, particularly ones that can support your liver and stuff like that. So looking at things like milk thistle.
Yeah.
People talk about curcumin, things like that.
Yeah.
Apparently they have a biphasic response. So biphasic meaning like if you take a little bit, they can be really good at supporting. And if you take too much, they can actually be detrimental and actually knock around your detox.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So how do you know? How do you know how much to take?
That's $1 million question, isn't it? It's a bit complicated, this detox stuff. I think, like you said, people like to think you can probably just go down to the chemist and buy a little bottle of something once a year and take it and, I'm looking after my detox. But it's actually like a little bit of I think it's a lifestyle. I think detox is a lifestyle these days.
Yeah.
So I think with all the toxicity we have, go back 100 years or even 50 years, whether you detox or not, assuming you're quite well, you're probably sort of going to manage it reasonably well. But I think we live in such a toxic world now, whether we like to admit it or not. I think detox is actually a requirement to be healthy and live a long life with lots of energy and, good wellness.
Yeah. And I guess, like you say, if abiding by measurements and dosages to avoid that, what do you call that, that biphasic factor. Simple things just like we talked about earlier, fasting and drinking good water.
Yeah.
They're your two best.
Using some hot, cold.
Yeah,
you could do some
hot,
rebounding,
therapy,
exercise.
Rebounding.
Yeah,
they're free, and you don't have to worry about maybe doing it too much or doing it too less.
Yeah. Exactly.
What you were talking, Smithy, before about the phases of detox.
Yep.
Do you want to touch on those?
I'll just touch on them briefly so we don't don't put people to sleep. So you always hear about sort of like phase 1 and phase 2, but some people also talk about phase 0 and phase 3.
But they're quite important though, right? Because you were talking about if we don't do them in certain ways, and if you don't look at that toxic burden can end up
100%
in your brain, or
So if you really support like phase 1 detox, but then like phase 2 and phase 3 is deficient, you're going to have big dramas. So very briefly, so phase 0, just one sentence, it's basically the toxin entering into your cell. Okay, so you've got toxin now that's inside your cell. Phase 1 is essentially we want to make all toxins water soluble so they can be excreted. So when we look at toxins, we've got sort of fat soluble and we've got water soluble. So they're either stored in your fat and they're sort of harder to get rid of, or water soluble ones are quite easy. Like Rue said, drink lots of clean water and you sort of can excrete through your kidneys and things like that. So phase 1, you kind of attaching a hydroxyl group, and it's assisting your body to make that a water-soluble toxin. So now it's water-soluble, but it's water-soluble, but now it's angry, so it's bouncing around inside your cell and it's doing damage. So it's gonna throw off, all sorts of damaging processes. So it's important that we support phase 2, and phase 2 is it's essentially like conjugating it. So you're adding a group of something to it, sticking to it, so that it can essentially be excreted.
Is that when we were talking about sort of diatomaceous earth or bentonite clay or spirulina?
Yeah, exactly. Or it might even
just
be attaching a methyl group to it, or attaching an amino acid group to it, like glycine, or it can be a whole range of different things.
Yep.
And it's easy to go down the rabbit hole and get confused, but that's like the very basic way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And then phase 3 essentially is actually excreting it.
Right.
Yeah. So if all that's working really well,
then
definitely like we can get through pumping a lot of toxins out of our body. But if we're missing one of those steps, or like a crucial mineral or something is missing from one of those, then we can definitely have dramas with
it being
not
getting out of your body and then ending up elsewhere and causing more damage.
Yeah, well, the last thing we want to do is like, we do a sweet fast. We break down a lot of fat cells. Fat cells are going to contain a lot of fat-soluble toxins. Now they're bouncing around in our body. And then if we don't have all these phases of detox working really well, then maybe that's going to go from, we're sitting in a fat cell on your ass, well, now it's going to go and lodge in your brain or something like that, even worse. So we want to make sure that we've got good detox wellness, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that's critical information.
Yeah,
that is
really
critical.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole and go, oh, fuck, it's too hard. But it's not. I mean, eat well, make sure you've got a good balance of minerals, maybe take some essential minerals and vitamins, which are really good at supporting detoxification. And there are some more expensive supplements you can take that are really good, like citrus pectin is a really good one. It's pectin is contained in citrus and apples and things like that, but you can buy a specific supplement. It's a citrus pectin, and it essentially can bind a lot of toxins and then help you excrete them.
Yeah, right.
So there's one, what's it called? Pectisol C, I've heard a lot of people recommend.
Yeah.
And there are cheaper brands, and it's a citrus pectin. You eat it. Basically, it's this, sort of plant-based product. Your toxins will stick to it, and then it helps you excrete them through your feces and stuff like that. So
it's
some
a little bit like
good if you're doing a heavy detox.
Like the function of that bentonite clay. So what
are
they called again, mate? Can you? Someone's just make a note of those.
Citrus pectins.
Citrus pectins.
Yeah, so a lot of people recommend those, and you've got your sort of critical minerals that will support detox. Like magnesium is super, super important for detox, and everyone talks about magnesium. It's involved in so many like enzymatic processes to help with detox and things like that. So you definitely want to make sure, like most people are deficient in magnesium. If you just look at a broad spectrum of society, so maybe not the fit, vibrant, well people that listen to our podcast, but your average Joe maybe is quite low in magnesium, so it's a really important one for detox. And then people talk about zinc and some other ones like that. So there's definitely things you can do to assist as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that that step. I don't know what's the stage that you mentioned. Those 4 stages there. That bit where it's the toxin is collected and removed is probably the most critical one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's no point having something to bind to the toxin and just not doing anything.
You don't want it just bouncing around inside
the
inside your body or inside a cell, just causing absolute havoc. That's a bit of a disaster. And I think that's where people can get in trouble. If you go, awesome, I'm really toxic. I'm going to do a 5-day water fast. You break down all these fat cells. They're all full of toxins. Now the toxins are in your bloodstream, but you don't have a good way of getting rid of them.
Yeah.
I think that can be a big drama.
Yeah.
I think that's where, like CJ made the really good point earlier, maybe some shorter fasts. You're sort of doing a couple of days, but you're not going into that really deep water fast territory, or even a fasting mimicking diet like Voltalongo recommends, where you're sort of getting some calories coming in still, but you're tricking your body getting into autophagy, but maybe you're not being quite as damaging as if you're just doing a water fast. So,
So if a person can't really afford supplements that help or encourage that elimination process of the actual toxin once it's bound, is just drinking good water a good way of flushing? So say you're talking about all these toxins floating around in your bloodstream now.
It's a bloody good start.
Is just drinking copious amounts of water, so you're pissing every half an hour, the way to do it?
Yeah, maybe not so much that you're going to just drink 3 litres of water a day sort of thing. Right. If you're doing that, I think you drink good water, like maybe not out of a plastic bottle.
Yeah. Just
lifestyle changes. I mean, if you don't uptake it, you don't have to get rid of it, right? So if you're not, like you said, you're not eating dirty fast food that's wrapped in a wrapper that's full of, PFOS, those very persistent sort of lifetime chemicals. And probably the other one we didn't touch on is blood donation.
Yeah.
You can really clean up your blood by getting rid of some of it.
Yeah, right.
Give it to someone else.
Give it to some other chump.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and you've gone down that rabbit hole, CJ, I think.
Yeah, I kind of looked at that from a longevity perspective, as in if you'd looked at what ancestral man would have done, they're getting scraps, getting a few fights, a few punch-ups, to lose a bit of blood. They're doing it via that pathway. We don't really do that anymore. We're not going to war with the new neighbouring tribe. There's a lot of, especially for males, that don't often get rid of a lot of their blood. They have a high iron load, which can be toxic, can lead to cardiovascular problems. So getting rid of some of that blood and then getting rid of the bad stuff, I suppose, and then your body is then making new blood. It's like a new lease on life, I suppose.
Yeah. And it's free.
Yeah.
They're gaining for it. They're banging on. They need blood all the time. So.
And it's a bit altruistic, isn't it? You're helping someone out. They give you a little vegetable oil laden biscuit or fruit cake afterwards, and a
Mars bar.
Yeah, Mars bar, some chocolate milk.
You just got to avoid their attacks to try and make you just give plasma.
Yeah, you can't avoid the plasma.
All of it. You want to get rid of your red blood cells as well if you're a man and you want to reduce your iron.
Well, they can spin it up, can't they? Take my plasma out after it's done.
Yeah, exactly. Do what they want after it's gone. Yeah, just don't give it back to me.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, even drinking things like silica-rich water for aluminium. So silica binds aluminium really well, and almost everybody has aluminium burden. So you guys come across Fiji water?
Yes.
Yeah, Fiji water is taken from some artesian basin in Fiji, and it's super high in silica. It actually says it on the back of the bottle. It actually gives you the silica rating. It's really high. And water with silica in it binds aluminium really well. So if you drink Fiji water and you've got really high aluminium burden, you can reduce it.
Wow.
Try and find your Fiji water in a glass bottle. I think some parts of the world do it and some don't.
Yeah, a lot of them are in plastic bottles.
A lot of them are in plastic.
Yeah.
But there are other silica-rich waters around.
Yeah.
Or you can go to a compounding pharmacist and get some silica made up, and silica will bind aluminium really well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah.
Like not all of detox has to be expensive. Like it sounds complicated and expensive, but a lot of it can be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Probably speak to your functional medicine doctor first.
100%. Go and speak to someone that knows a lot more than us.
Yeah. Like
just a disclaimer from us.
Natural medicine sort of.
100%. Someone that you trust who's
Yeah.
Or even go and there's some really good online courses. If you want to get some sort of worldwide experts.
Yeah.
There are definitely some people who've put their whole career into detox. So some of them have written really good books or have some really good online content that you can often find for very cheap or free. You can get some really good ideas about how to go forward with it.
Beautiful.
But do it in some way. I reckon
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
important. It is important
How often do you need to do it, do you think?
all the time.
Every day?
Just live a clean life.
Yeah.
Try and make little steps towards it all the time.
Yeah.
And grab the occasional sauna. Sweat through exercise.
Yeah.
Eat clean. You
Yeah.
can afford to eat organic.
Bit of fasting every now and then. Drink
Fasting,
food.
yeah.
Drink water.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Well, that's a pretty good way to finish, really.
Yeah, it's interesting one. The old,
Yeah.
the old detox.
Yeah.
Pretty important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Like you said at the start, ancestral man probably wouldn't have had to worry too much about it and would have done and had those natural pathways to get it done. But where in our modern environment, we definitely need to take some intervention.
Definitely.
Go see your functional medicine doctor, get a little protocol happening,
Yeah, definitely.
listen to someone smarter than us, and
Yeah, definitely do that.
yeah. But that little online course might be a good idea.
Yeah, some of them are. Sometimes you can even just listen to a really good YouTube video. If you find someone who seems extremely credible,
Yeah.
sometimes they have some really good content. PubMed is a free resource if
Yeah.
you want to really get into the science of it. If you're a bit nerdy, might be a PubMed action
Yeah,
from
we're
time
a
to
bit
time.
nerdy.
Probably a quarter or maybe a half of the articles on PubMed are free. You
Yeah.
can read as much science as you want.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've got our Instagram page up and running, so get on there, give us a follow. We'll put in a few little nuggets of gold and a little 2-minute snippet and the
Definitely
email.
some nuggets of gold in this one.
Yeah, definitely. The email, modernancestral@gmail.com. There's a link at our Instagram page too. So,
Cool.
yeah, we're up and about with our modern technologies.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're going to break that top 100 in Belgium, so
Yeah.
keep going. We'll keep doing what
Let's
we're doing.
do it. Put your VPN onto Belgium.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
Get your
Alright.
air guitars ready.
Oh, here it comes. All right, enjoy the week. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.